Hello there, my dear chatters. Welcome back to Style Esports Season 16. Big stream tonight. We are starting the first round of playoffs in the X-Style division with what should be a close fight between 4th seed PSE Dawn and 5th seed HSG Pink. It is also the first day of patch 1317. My name is Crewman44. Joining me for the call this evening, we have the big cat himself. What's up, Tiger? How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm excited about this, getting into the style playoffs once again. And I think that, as you said, should be a good matchup here today. I'm excited to see on the new patch what some people are going to bring out here. I know that I'm excited for the buffs that came in for Lux. I'm a big fan of Lux, as you already know. And I think that right now, Lux probably playable in both mid and support. Of course, she's got a few particular pairings that you like to see in that bottom lane, such as the Caitlyn or the Seraphine. So we'll be keeping an eye out for that, but I'm hoping to see some early round Lux play. Either way, though, I think that these teams are going to want to carry their momentum from what they had going on in the regular season. They've clearly, obviously, been playing well already to get to this point. So I think that they're going to want to make some slight adjustments according to the patch changes, because it was a pretty big patch, to be fair. But at the same time, keep what's working well for them in mind as they make those adjustments.
Yeah, absolutely. My personally biggest takeaway from this patch, there were some Vi changes as well. My own former one trick receiving a little bit of attention here on 13-17. Overall, I'm feeling pretty good about those Vi changes. It's they're trying to nerf the full lethality builds, which I was honestly never too much of a fan of anyways, and a little bit of a buff to the bruiser build. So she gets her passive up more often, and it also gives a little bit of a bigger shield now. So pretty interesting stuff there as well. You have a slew of pretty minor changes to some fighter items as well that may be relevant later on. But I do think we can go ahead and turn our conversation towards these two teams here. Tiger should be getting into our Game 1 draft relatively soon, but it has actually been a couple of weeks for both of these squads since they played any official style matches. It was exactly 2 weeks ago almost for both of these teams. It was PSE Dawn managed to get a 2-0 win over the 6th seed Stunned Gaming Invictus. But HSG Pink, it was a loss for them most recently. They did manage to get a game, though. It was 1-2. And they lost to the 2nd seed here in the X-Style division, the Glacial Knights. So definitely a tougher opponent for HSG Pink. And just goes to show that tonight's matchup, I think, should be very, very close.
Seems like the seedings are about right in light of those match results. And we're getting on into the draft now. We're going to see some early focus bands around different areas. I'm imagining that HSG Pink is taking a look at its Jover as probably the main carry threat for PSE Dawn. So I think that we're going to see a lot of AD carry bands from them, and a little bit of a mixture of what we could see banned from PSE Dawn. But it looks like right now they want to shut down some of these mid laners that are just really annoying to deal with in team fights.
Yeah, definitely. I like that you mentioned it's Jover, AD carry for PSE Dawn, highest solo queue rank in the lobby right now, Emerald 2 for Jover. But also, I think it is worth mentioning that the team captain, their jungler, Hef Colton, had a very strong performance in that 2-0 win that I was talking about a couple of weeks ago. Was 8-5-9 on the Maokai, who is still pretty meta on this patch as well. Didn't receive any changes on 13-17, and then 10-3-17 performance on the J4. It's going to be the Viego that gets locked in first. So that jungler is receiving some draft bucks, Tiger.
Yeah, gonna be picking the jungle right at the top of the draft here. I think that gives some room to work, especially if you're trying to play pretty heavily around the ADC as your main carry role, then getting some ability to respond to what the enemy picks is usually a good thing. I like this idea of playing Ashe for Mikey. I think that when when the expectation is that the enemy team might put some pressure around your side of the map, then you want to be able to have some utility. You want to be able to especially use that hawk shot to know where the enemy jungler is at all times. And then you got the Gragas, so there's a great deal of pick that's already been brought into the team comp for HSG Pink.
Yeah, absolutely. AD carry is a role where, generally speaking, falling behind is punished the hardest. Like an AD carry who's behind, their only real job is to do damage, right? So if you're behind, you don't offer as much damage. You're feeling pretty useless in most cases. But Ashe is kind of an exception to that rule, right? For the reasons you were just talking about, where she can offer that utility even in the late game. So even if Mikey does fall behind to our very high ranked Mr. Jover over here on PSE Dawn, then still should be able to offer a good amount with the Frost Archer there. But Seraphine and Ahri on B2 and B3 for PSE Dawn. So a very aggressive mid-jungle duo that's going to spike very hard at level 6.
And now looking at the state of the draft, I'm wondering if PSE Dawn are predicting that this is going to be a Gragas in the mid lane for ZPM. Of course, banning champs like Lissandra and Galio, Gragas feels pretty similar in terms of what he offers to a team. So maybe getting a good counter pick in the Ahri is going to serve PSE Dawn pretty well here.
Yeah, certainly. Gragas mid, certainly not guaranteed, though. Could be flexed into top or jungle, depending on what HSG Pink wants to do. We shall see here in the second ban phase what PSE Dawn is, what role they're going to focus with their last couple of bans here, given the flexible nature of the big man.
Yeah, I'd imagine that they'd probably want to do some jungle bans here to cover the Viego. I think that once you've already got that locked in, the worst case situation is that you get a Viego that ends up having a hard time being useful. It'd be a Lux ban, so being concerned about that potential Seraphine Lux bot combination here, I suppose. But I think that covering the Viego makes sense. Looks like instead they're figuring it's Gragas jungle, and they're just trying to put down some mid bans to cover the Ahri.
Yeah, that does appear to be the call from PSE Dawn. HSG Pink holding on to that R5 counter pick as well. So that Gragas, his position in the draft won't be revealed until the very end. Let's see what they decide to pick here on R4. Likely... if the Gragas isn't mid, then something into the Ahri would likely make sense. There's the Vex. A very common counter pick into that Ahri.
Going to be able to utilize those dashes to stack up the passive. Makes a lot of sense as a response to the Ahri. And I think that with the pick nature of HSG Pink's comp, that's a very synergistic pick as well. Going to be able to get that initial reset and then go for a recast on the ultimate. Going to try to find multiple instances of being able to blow up different members of the enemy team. And I think that's going to put them in a really strong spot here. Of course, we were saying the Gragas pick is still being flexed between jungle and top, but presumably it's going to be top lane counter pick coming in for Toby Larone, and that's going to mean some opportunity to maybe roam towards a strong side top side here in the mid game for ZPM.
Well, Aatrox, the top laner for PSE Dawn, can't go for the Aatrox because, of course, the Darkin was banned by HSG Pink for good reason. When you're playing against a top laner named Aatrox, you probably don't want to let him play Aatrox. So it will be the Kale. And I don't know. It's going to be so confusing, Tiger, to actually just call this player Aatrox for the whole match. Is there something? Could we just call him Trox or something? Or AAA? What if we go with AAA? What do you think?
I approve of it. I'm going to try to go for Aatrox, but right. I will not make any commentary towards whatever you come up with. But we are seeing a champion that you mentioned before coming up here. It's going to be the Vi as the jungler, and that pushes Gragas into the top lane, feeling confident about the early game matchup into the Kale.
Interesting indeed. I would have maybe expected, with such a bold blind pick in the Kale. I would have maybe expected Toby Larone to go for something a little bit more aggressive to try and punish that, but instead it's just saying, no, I'm going to play the maybe it will be the AP Gragas potentially to try and pressure that Kale a little bit, but certainly Gragas, not a champion known for his aggressive laning. But regardless, the Vi coming in on R5, something that I am happy to see. It can be a little bit difficult to pilot the Vi into a composition such as this. There are some pretty slippery champions here that can be a little bit difficult to get on top of, and going in on a Kale who has R is oftentimes not a recipe for success as the Vi, but certainly very interested to see how the HSG Pink Jungler is going to be able to play this one out.
I think that it's going to rest a lot upon how well that Dawn can position right at the beginning of team fights. I think that there's going to be a lot of action around objectives. That's where HSG Pink need to go to be able to find success. They need to set up first around the objectives, at least get some vision down, and then be able to start out a fight with a pick. You can get 100-0 between Ashe ult, Gragas ult, Vex ult, Vi ult. It's very easy to single out a target. And like you're saying, there's a lot of dashes, there's a lot of defensive abilities available for PSE Dawn. They're going to be very difficult to take out right at the beginning unless you're able to solo someone out. So it's going to be a lot about finding that initial pick, and if HSG Pink can make that happen, then they're going to have a lot of success throughout this game. But if they're not able to get many picks as the early game goes through, then they're going to have to deal with the later game power that comes through once you get to the late game on Kale, the late game on Seraphine, the late game on Ahri. It's going to become more and more difficult to deal with. So they're going to have to make some plays happen in the mid stages of the game and be able to force with map pressure to be able to get into situations where PSE Dawn have to come out of their shell.
Yeah, I certainly do agree there. There seems to be a decisive scaling advantage for the side of PSE Dawn in this first draft. But besides that, the compositions I do feel are mirrored to a pretty significant degree. I mean, both teams really seeming to be opting in for a pick comp, pretty straightforward pick composition on either side for this first game. And with the teams, you know, on paper at least, closely matched in terms of skill as well. Should be a really interesting game that should give us a lot of information on the current power levels of these two teams. And while there is a lot of scaling for the side of PSE Dawn, Tiger, I will also add in the wrinkle that they are quite lacking in frontline. They don't really have anybody that can face check, dark parts of the map. They don't really have anybody who can tank, crystal arrows or death sentences or things like this. So, even if we do go late, I think HSG could still have potential angles to find picks.
I agree with you conditionally. I agree that they don't have any frontline without being able to coordinate, but they can kind of work together to create a faux frontline, if you will. I think that if you're able to stack up shields that you're getting from Seraphine, you're able to stack up the shroud that Viego has, you're able to stack up Kale ultimate, it becomes a lot more difficult to just immediately kill right through someone. I think that the Viego Rakan, they're the melee champs, so they're naturally going to want to be in the front line, but they have to be frontlining right in front of the rest of their team so that they can be kept safe and actually utilize the fact that their team works together to create that front line.
Sounds like it's going to require a lot of coordination, a lot of synergy, potentially a pretty high barrier of execution there, Tiger, to try and facilitate a playstyle such as what you are describing. But certainly it is possible that PSE Dawn are up to the task. We will just have to wait and see. Before we go into our short break, as we get into game number one, Tiger, let's get a prediction from you. What do you think about these two drafts? Do you prefer one over the other? Who's taking game number one?
I always like to fall back on the team that doesn't have the burden of being proactive. So in that case, I think that PSE Dawn is going to have that slight advantage of knowing that they can let HSG Pink come to them in most cases. So I'll give them about a 65-35 chance of winning.
All right. Eyes on the scaling then for my co-caster. It's B1 priority on the Viego for team captain Half Colton. And it's going to be Jover, our highest solo queue rank player on the Seraphine. See if they're going to be able to make this scaling draft work, or if we will find that early to mid game snowball for HSG. Don't go anywhere, guys. The first game of this round 1 playoffs best of 3 is coming up on your monitors right after this. All right, everybody, welcome on to the Rift for Game 1 between PSE Dawn and HSG Pink. It's, the pick comps are locked in, ready to rumble here on the Rift, but they need a couple of levels first, Tiger, before they can really start looking for those angles. Nothing much going to be happening here at level 1.
Yeah, that's true. It's going to be a little bit of back and forth with some spells being thrown. A couple stacks coming through for the tier. It's Joe. We're going to be pleased with that, I'm sure.
It's Jover indeed.
Indeed. Going to be ahead early on. That's got to feel good. But like you're saying, it's going to probably be pretty quiet in the early stages. There's a little bit of gank potential on the side of HSG Pink that got the buy. And the setup is pretty good in all 3 lanes once you got the basic abilities down. But I think that it's not going to be any sooner than a 4 camp towards top side if in the very earliest. And I would like to see some ganks towards that Kale. You want to make sure that you're not giving the free scaling up once Kale gets online. That's you can't take that back. So you got to prevent that whenever you can.
100%. Yeah, and the Gragas does have all that set up, right? He's not going to be able to really excel at pressuring the Kale in the 1v1 just by himself, but if Vi does make her way into that top lane, absolutely could be an angle there. I'm hoping to see something like that as well from Wolfspike here, as ZPM finding a couple of early skill shots there in the mid lane.
Be able to at least get some trades off as the electrocute there and the ignite. So looking to make the early kill threat a reality. Of course, once you get to level 6s coming through, Ahri becomes a lot more slippery, but there is that little window of being a little bit vulnerable. And Wolfspike already looking for a gank.
Oh, yeah, the Vault Breaker is charged up. Not quite enough range, though, to actually connect, and your dog is very upset, Tiger, about them looking for that gank. But 12 IQ going to find the double knock-up with the Grand Entrance. And the double root comes out from Jover as well, but they just don't have the damage. This Seraphine Rakan lane, they had so much CC, but nothing to actually capitalize on it. And it will be HSG Pink continuing to shove in this bot wave for now.
Look for the gank.
Oh, yeah, here comes Viego. That's Hef Colton looking for a play down here. Thresh might have to flash away from this one. The Ashe, in fact, will have to flash away from the Grand Entrance. Thresh locked up by the Spectral Maw. Will eventually have to burn that flash as well. So that's both flashes blown in the bot lane. Mikey trying to get a little bit of return damage out here. And Vex with the rotation. ZPM looking for this one. Viego will be able to flash away, but the fear comes out, and that will be the first blood for the mid laner HSG Pink. And ZPM on the board.
Nice roam coming out from ZPM, going to be able to secure that first blood. And once Hef Colton was overextended there was no way to get back out alive. And Goon able to survive as well. So that's huge for HSG Pink in this early game. I already wanted to see some roams coming out from the Vex once we got to level 6. But ZPM doesn't even need to wait that long. And already having that kill on the board is going to secure really advantageous reset once it finally does come through. Looks like a regank coming through bot, but it's going to be spotted out too early.
Yeah, the power of the Thresh. Able to get his marksman back towards safety with the Lantern there. And also we did have Wolfspike in the area for a potential counter gank. So nothing more going to come of this bot lane situation for now. Just that one kill onto ZPM. After that really nice roam, we do have our first dragon coming up in about 20 seconds. Be a Cloud to start us off. Vi, of course, excelling at taking those early objectives. And it will be Wolfspike back towards the bottom side of the map here.
Going to be the first Drake coming up now, as you say. And with both sides in a spot where they could look to put some pressure around it. I do think that it's the right idea for HSG Pink to start it off, but they will have to be careful about the potential for Dr. Shrouds to come down. Already has the wave pushed in. Looks like they're going to go for the gank on mid first.
They will. Ahri still no. Oh, that was a beautiful charm from Shrouds. Gets Wolfspike out of the Vault Breaker there. We'll be able to stay safe. Didn't even have to burn the flash on the Ahri. Absolutely chilling.
Only thing being flashed there is some emotes. Dr. Shrouds with some sass on the back end of the play. Not going to allow that gank to come through without being heard about. And we do see Hef Colton on this side of the map, but it looks like it's not going to be contested as far as the Drake goes. The first one being a Cloud, going to be nice for getting a little bit of that movement speed. But I think that the real challenge starts once about the third Drake comes through. I think that's when we're going to start seeing PSE start to contest.
Now, we saw an attempted play there from Goon and Wolfspike towards the bot lane, but Seraphine and Rakan are able to back away in time, able to stay safe down there. So it's a relatively slow early game, Tiger, which does likely favor the side of PSE Dawn, although we do have to be wary about things like dragon stacking, like you were just talking about.
I think both sides probably pretty happy with where they're at right now. It's the level 6 is coming through. That's really going to be the call to action here for HSG Pink. They're going to want to start looking for picks. I'd imagine we're going to see a lot of enchanted crystal arrows flying out. And to see some more hooks coming through, but this is just such a tough lane to kill. You can see that they barely get any damage down, and even though the hook landed to start it off, the trade ends up going favorably for the bot duo of PSE.
Yeah, that's kind of funny to watch that bot lane because there is so much CC and so much setup on both sides, but both sides a little bit lacking in damage. So they're CCing each other a whole lot, but nobody is actually really doing any dying. So calm, all things considered. Wolf Spike once again going to be making their presence felt down here. Goon will find the hook, gets the cleanse out of Jover there. Somewhat worthwhile. Mikey quite low, though. The flash for the high note, and that's going to be Jover there as our Emerald 2 player finding the outplay.
Just barely on enough mana to land that. I think that right at the beginning there wasn't enough mana, which is why it's Jover started to back off. But a good cleanse to make sure that there was no opportunity to get 100 to 0 CC chained. And then going back in at just the right moment, that's going to mean that PSE Dawn take the slight advantage. It's going to be an advantage that's hard to wrestle back from them because they just have so much elusive champions on their side. I don't see any targets that easily get picked from the same level, and they're looking for the Rift Herald as well. They're not just going to sit on the fact that they can scale. They're going to try to proactively build themselves a lead, and you got to respect that.
Absolutely. PSE able to make it an even trade between those two early neutrals. In goes Shrouds. Will find the charm. And the Grand Entrance follow-up is a very nice ZPM. Locked up for a while here. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow, though, from Ash. Buying a little bit more time and a lot of return damage. Will come out onto the Viego, but have Colton Heartbreaker away. The Ignite will be enough, though, as Goon does manage to get out just enough damage to secure that kill. A 1-for-1 in the mid lane.
A nice play there on the engage to set things up by Dr. Shrouds, able to land the charm, and ZPM falls immediately. Kill on the back end goes over to Goon, so that's going to help them complete the or start towards the first item. I think that getting a rocket here is actually pretty big, so hopefully that ends up being the pick. Even Shroud got kind of sent to the grave with the last patch. That's not what we want to see, but I think that being able to survive some of the initial burst, ironically, it's the Seraphine Rakan that's going for the 100 to 0s right now. They're getting so much poke down onto Mikey that it's a huge threat.
Yeah. I mean, that was a really nice play from Jover earlier. You know, Mikey just not expecting to be under threat there after having just pushed the Seraphine back with the assistance of his jungler, right? But Jover seeing the angle, able to find that early lead in the bot lane. It is pretty even still in terms of gold between those two marksman players. But still, Seraphine stacking up that tier. You know, just farming away, looking to get towards that later stage of the game.
And on the mid lane play, not only did it end up being a kill going over, but Dr. Shrouds apparently had the Dark Seal beforehand, so able to exchange the stacks on it.
Going in with the Vault Breaker here. It will be the Shadow Surge that'll connect onto F. Colton as well, who flashes over the wall to keep himself alive. Close call there for the PSE jungler. Does manage to stay safe, though, but with only 20 seconds until the dragon spawns, this will likely be another neutral for HSG.
I think that this one should have been going to HSG no matter what. It's well played by them to set themselves up.
Oh, the cask! The alley-oop from Toby. It is going to force the Divine Intervention out from Aatrox. Kale now on the retreat. Toby waiting for the cooldowns, finds the barrel, but now both top laners will expend their flashes. Now we're watching the dragon fight for some reason, but I really want to see what ends up happening in that top lane. Half Colton is quite low, but sticking around, wanting to contest for this neutral. Ari is coming in on the flank, as well as a bit of a sandwich, a pincer maneuver from PSE. Dragon still leashed about 50%. Then we will find the hook over the wall, and Shroud's just going to get burst down here, potentially flashing away. Spirit Rush as well, utilized everything from the mid laner just to stay alive. And now it's going to be 12 IQ going in with the quickness. Beautiful setup there for the Seraphine. Ultimate, and Hef Colton will get the first reset, and that might be all that the Viego needs. He's trying to reset his way through this fight, and it will be PSE Dawn that end up in the advantage. They get the 3-for-1. Now Mikey trying to get away, and his heart will not survive. It will, in fact, be broken as Jover picks up a double kill, and it will be 1-1 now in terms of Dragon's huge fight for PSE.
Yeah, that's going to make it a lot more difficult for HSG Pink to play in this game because they're not going to have any pressure over the map. I mean, they're kind of relying on this point at being able to find some picks, but they don't have anything to get picks around. So as long as there's some safe play coming through on the side of PSE Dawn, like we've been seeing throughout the beginning of this game, it's going to just get harder and harder to find any of those proactive plays. And at some point, that just becomes a little demoralizing if you're the side where you need to be getting those picks, but you can't do it until the enemy team makes a mistake. Hopefully, they're going to be able to show some patience and keep themselves in control so that this game doesn't go completely out of whack.
Quite right, Tiger. It has been very patient play so far in this one from PSE Dawn. They've been waiting for their moment and capitalizing very nicely. Although Shroud, he is getting caught out a little bit in this mid lane. The Viol's been already utilized. The Shadow Surge will be good for the kill. So another one going over to ZPM, and those Dark Seal stacks have swapped over to the other side in that mid lane. That's going to get HSG a little bit back into this one. Oh, have Colton waiting to engage onto Wolf Spike. The Vi will be caught unawares. In comes Rakan as well over the wall. The Vault Breaker to try and get towards safety. And Hef and 12 IQ will give up the chase for now. So going to secure this Scuttle Crab for the Viego. We'll be able to lock that one away.
I think that there only exists 2 Dark Seal stacks. They can go back and forth, but there are only 2 of them.
What if there are more than 2 Dark Seals in the game? Does that change the number of stacks that can be present, or is it always 2?
I think that if there's more than 2, then there gets to be 3 Dark Seals, or 3 Dark Seal stacks, because there could be an assist.
Is there like an algorithm where oh, that's a nice cask. Never mind. Let's stop talking about algorithms. Toby with a huge explosive cask in the top lane, able to find their first kill of the game. On to the Kale.
Yeah, nice play there. Toby Larone able to go towards that AP-focused build and has the damage there for it to be able to kill off Aatrox pretty easily. Still looking to start up the Rift Herald is the side of PSE Dawn. Not going to be able to focus it down, though, without any Kale in the area. Seems like they're going to have to back it off.
All right, 12 IQ waiting in the bush. We'll find the knock-up onto Mikey. The Lantern is down. Ash will be able to get away, but not before taking a huge chunk of her health bar. But the Rakan getting flayed back underneath the turret. The Encore will connect from Jover, and that is going to be kill number 4 for the Seraphine. Really nicely set up there. Mikey and Goon thinking they could maybe turn things around with that setup onto the Rakan underneath the turret, but it's Jover coming in with the Encore, securing the fight win, the 2v2 win in the bot lane for PSE.
And now that Leandries is complete for its Jover, there's really no counterplay left available. You can't pick it, you can't kill it, and you can't survive it either. The poke is just going to continue to rain down. Goon is in a great deal of trouble.
Yeah, I think not surviving is exactly what's going to happen to the Thresh here, as Hef Golden will be able to pick up that kill, gets the reset, and doesn't find the death sentence, and 12 IQ is going to run out of HP, so that's 1 kill back for ZPM. Hef Golden already using the Hyper Arc to get back in here. ZPM flashing over the wall, but the flash follow is good from Hef Golden to pick up that kill. Number 2 now for the Viego. Kale in trouble once again in this top lane, going to utilize the Divine Judgment to buy a little bit more time. We're coming in from Shrouds. We'll be able to go in and try and peel these guys off the top laner. Will not be successful. And now only 1 Spirit Rush charge left for the Ahri. Thinking about going back in for this one, but the Gragas is just a little bit too scary. And we are going to have to back away. Teleport utilized by the PSE mid laner, but the top laner still going down. Regardless, it was PSE once again winning out on that bottom side of the map.
Going to be able to expand the gold lead to about 3,000 here. Dr. Shrouds has to be careful because Toby Lerone still has flash. Could look to go for the body slam flash. All about you in the
Nice
area.
charm, and Rakan rather is there for the follow-up. And just as you were calling that Toby was maybe looking for the play, walks into a charm. Ari gives him a little kiss, and the Gragas is going to be dropping.
Yeah, and it just becomes more and more difficult. Now we see the Everfrost as well. The CC chain is just pretty lethal. If you ever see a charm land, you can expect that whoever it landed on, not likely to stay alive for much longer.
Yeah.
And a nice roam up from 12 IQ as well, showing maybe more than 12 IQ in that play. I don't know. Looking pretty smart.
I would say so. That would be my expectation anyways. Maybe the 12 IQ isn't actually referring to the player themselves. Maybe someone or something else has 12 IQ and the player is just referencing that other entity. Really not entirely certain. As Mikey over the wall will be able to dodge away from the grand entrance, but cannot dodge the charm or the encore. That was a lot utilized to pick off the Ash, but they were successful, and they did get the flash off of Mikey as well. In comes Shrouds. When does the charm back off cooldown? Goon is looking like he's just ready to give up on life.
He's coming in.
That Thrash. In comes the Shadow Surge, though. Here comes ZPM, and the TP from the Grox as well has joined the play. F. Colton, though, trying to reset his way through this one, but the Viego is not going to be able to survive. The Shadow Surge does not land, but it does not matter, as ZPM going to be able to pick up yet another kill. Wolf Spike back in now with the Vault Breaker. Aatrox, no ultimate for the KO is going to go down as well. Jover, the last one to survive, trying to self-peel as much as he can, but one more Mistral Bolt. That's not going to be it. It's going to be the Barrel that gets the shutdown. Toby picks up the big ol' 400 gold bonus, and HSG right back in this one.
Great play from HSG Pink. They're able to get the first TP from Toby Lerone. Aatrox was trying to reset on the back end of a trade in the top lane. Didn't have ultimate available. I don't believe either of the top laners had it. But Toby Lerone getting there so much faster was able to set up ZPM to control the fight. Able to split it up into a bunch of just broken skirmishes going on. And that's exactly what we needed to see coming out from HSG Pink. They end up getting the 5-for-1, I believe, and 5-for-2 perhaps, and disproving my theory about Dark Seal stacks, because now ZPM has 8 of them. I'm imagining that that's going to be transferred to a Magi Soul Stealer here in the near future.
Quite likely, yeah. This Vex extraordinarily powerful at the moment. 2 items completed in addition to that 8-stack Dark Seal, but we are finding the Vex right now trying to knock off those stacks, but the Lantern will be there. Goon getting their mid laner out to safety.
It's Jover now on a huge power spike. The 2 items going to be Leandries and the upgraded Seraph's Embrace. Going to be even harder to kill through the mana shield. And now we're going to also have the damage to back it up. I think that we're going to continue to see the picks stacking up going forwards. But looking at some of the other builds we have here, already 2 items complete for ZPM on the Vex, of course, on the back end of that fight. Had a lot of gold to spend, so going to be probably the strongest player in the game right now. 2 items complete for Hef Colton with the Kraken Slayer, so going to be trying to take out the front line with that build. And also notably going to be Everfrost for Toby Lerone. So going for that full AP variety Gragas. Going to be rather squishy because of it, but at the same time has that threat to one-shot if he lands a good ultimate. So I approve of the build, just continuing to build up more and more threats for both of these sides. It's kind of an arms race until you get into that point where the Kale can kind of 1v9 the game.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how the drafts are functioning, right? There's a couple of pick comps. The idea is just to blow somebody up before they can react. And I do appreciate, these players indexing into builds that facilitate that sort of play style, such as the AP Gragas. So I agree. It's a pretty good call out there for Toby. Going to find the Everfrost here, but going to take a good amount of damage from Aatrox. But it's a bait. As the Vi is here, Wolfspike going to go in with the Cease and Desist. Divine Judgment will come out. Toby going to eat a little bit of return damage here as the flash utilized from VKL to try and get towards safety, but another Vault Breaker charged up from Wolfspike, and Vi will be able to lock down that kill. 13-13 now on the scoreboard. Very close game between these two squads.
Just about dead even in the gold as well. As we take a look at the individual gold, of course, a lot of that is going to be on ZPM, up about 2,500 individually. But the leaves in the jungle and bot lane, as we expected, pretty strong areas of the map for PSE Dawn. So that's where they're kind of holding out hope. And Dr. Shroud's going to have to be holding down the fort in the top lane. Could get picked off here, but dodges out the hook.
Have Colton here. Try and look for a punish. We'll find the Spectrum Maw onto Goon, but Vex with the fear for the disengage. IQ also in the area, not able to make their way into this fight. Getting some vision around the Baron at the moment. It's the side of PSE, trying to gain some control over the area, but that is a big Crystal Arrow that's going to connect onto the Aria, and Shadow Surge is going to connect for ZPM as well. Going to go in, gets the fear. Spirit Rush, will it get Shrouds to safety? It looks like the Ari is out of there, and Hef Colton has shut down the Vex, has the resets now. Oh, but the Death Sentence will connect. The Viego potentially going to get locked down here. CC'd up, will have to flash away to stay alive. Now the Rakan, 12 IQ, he's slippery enough to survive. It looks like, and a charm landing onto Toby Larone just as the Grog was looking for the play. Now it's Aatrox on the top side of this fight. Doesn't have the ultimate, doesn't have the flash, doesn't have a health bar. Will go down. Look at all these low outcomes. Silver comes in with a double kill with a double high note. Thresh trying to get back towards the turret. Wolfspike able to find one back onto the mid laner. Messy fight here in the top lane, but it's 5 for 3. PSE on top.
Jover able to just about free fire that entire fight, able to land the double high note, double kill, and then able to use all the stacks of the passive from it to get that extended range auto attack and finish off Goon as well. That ends up meaning that the fight goes in favor of PSE Dawn, and they're looking to take the remaining outer towers with it and set themselves up for this Infernal Drake. It's 2-1 right now on the Drakes in favor of HSG Pink. We'll see if they can get out to contest this one, as Wolfspike has just respawned. Could try to run straight out onto the map and contest.
They're just trying to burn it down. They've got it down to about 50% right now, and the Vi is still quite far away. I think the smite for HSG will not make it to the Dragon Pit in time. The objective will go over to PSE. Are we looking for the fight is the question. The Viego does have the Heartbreaker to get over the back of that Dragon Wall. I'm thinking we'll definitely have to use it here. As no, actually, it looks like HSG are just going to walk away from this one. They're not going to be looking for anything more in this skirmish. And we'll be 2-2 now in terms of Dragons. These teams really just going back and forth. The picks and the team fights both.
I'm not sure that they saw him. I think that he sat in the pit in the Shroud, and they figured that he had to have gone over the wall, but they just never saw him stay in the pit, so he was able to keep the ultimate alive. And we saw right at the beginning of that play that Mikey didn't have the cooldown quite up for the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, was able to get it back and fire it off almost immediately, but wasn't able to get anything good out of it, not able to catch anyone. I think it hit 12 IQ after it was already over the wall, so pretty harmless there. But we see once again how elusive that the champs are for the side of PSE Dawn. They're looking to set up around the Baron as they're starting to clear out the vision, and Mikey is in a little bit of a precarious position.
As the Spectrum are going to connect, yes, it will. The Lantern is there, though, to get the Ash back towards safety. Wolfspike already in with the cease and desist. Rakan trying to everybody up with the quickness. We'll be able to dash back out. Really nice encore on to 3 there from the Seraphine. ZPM still on the chase, though. Shadow Surge already utilized, and it will be a Shrouds coming in from the side, picking off that Ash, who is all out of mobility, all out of help. And they are able to find that kill. 1-0 PSE in this top side jungle. Not quite enough to start a Baron, though.
A little bit of smoke and mirrors coming out from PSE Dawn, representing a threat from the bottom side, but then able to cover up Dr. Shroud's attack from the top side off the flank, able to get a kill. They pick up a tower as well. Toby Larone looking at Hef Colton, maybe going to try to find a kill.
Oh, this squishy Gragas is so low, dodges away from the Heartbreaker, but the beat drop from Jover is going to connect through the minion wave. Gets the kill onto the squishy AP Gragas. And it's just PSE. They're starting to rack him up now. It's Vex having to flash over this wall. 12 IQ in for the follow. Not going to find too much. With Crystal Arrow connecting onto the Seraphine there, but there is no follow-up.
I'm starting to think that Hef Colton might have to take the name from his mid laner. He just keeps finding all of these great shrouds to put himself into positions where it's difficult to respond for the enemy team. Able to get the pick there onto Toby Larone, and that's going to set up a Baron. This is on vision, so there's a potential of going over the wall, but they're just going to find a pick instead.
Yeah, Mikey here by himself, barely going to survive there with the Thresh Lantern, but I mean, Ash just trying to walk up there. I'm not sure what Mikey was even looking for. I mean, your chances of a steal there are pretty negligible. And ultimately, I mean, Wolfspike, I'm not sure, I mean, what the Vi was thinking there. It's 26 minutes on the clock, and you're just hanging out, catching the wave in bot lane. Like, that is a huge window for the enemy team to rush Baron. That's exactly what happened. And now Aatrox is going to be in trouble. This level 15 KO looks like will lose out on being able to keep the Baron buff, although Cease and Desist has already been used. KO with the flash. Will Aatrox be able to get to safety? The Vault Breaker will connect with the healing. The shield is there from the Seraphine, and PSE make it back out onto the map in time to cover the retreat of their top laner. They get a couple of more picks on a jungle and support. It's a double kill for Hef Colton as the team captain leading the charge. PSE Dawn looking to take game number 1.
I was singing the praises at the start of the cast of the Seraphine Lux combination, but I'm going to have to take a flyer on the Seraphine Rakan duo. It's looking pretty potent here. Almost impossible to kill in the lane phase, even by a strong Ash Thresh. And then you get into the later stages of the game, and the combos just line up so well. You can proc the an upgraded W by putting the Rakan shield on. You can set up the stun on the Q by being or on the E by landing the Rakan W. There's just so many good synergies going on here, and it's making the game nigh unplayable for the side of HSG, ping PSE Dawn in a commanding position.
Absolutely. I wonder if the Seraphine Rakan lane is something that they've been running for a while, or if it's something that they just kind of cooked up for playoffs here. But you're absolutely right. You know, whatever the case may be, it is working out extraordinarily well in their favor. Jover 8, 2, and 10 on this Seraphine Rakan as well, with an exemplary KDA 2, 3, and 15 for the PSE support. Vault Breaker to get out of dodge for Wolfspike. We do have the third Infernal Dragon alive now on Summoner's Rift, but it looks like HSG are not going to be able to even get over here to think about going for a contest. And now, Infernal Soul Point locked away for PSE Dawn in addition to their level 16 solo laners and juggler. They are scaled, but that is going to be an arrow that does connect onto the mid laner. Shroud's likely going to go down here. It's going to flash and Spirit Rush directly into Vi's fist. And that will be a kill back over to HSG Pink, but the mid lane is getting obliterated as they did commit numbers for that top lane play. CPM gonna get locked up by the Maw, has the fear to try and get away, but oh my goodness, Hef Colton with the execution onto the strongest member of HSG, and now the siege can begin in earnest.
4v4 looking pretty good here going in.
Gonna find the quickness, knock up onto one, Thresh flashing away, trying to stay alive, popping the locket as well for a little bit of additional shielding. Side of HSG Pink, the rest of them, rather, will be able to get away for now. Mikey, gotta be careful. Taking some more damage from the Seraphine here. Hook landing onto 12 IQ, but the Gragas already taken down on the top side of this fight. So much damage at this point from the Viego and the Kale. Just melting through all of these health bars. Oh, Wolfspike went in, couldn't quite find the Vault Breaker there, and that is going to be the end of the game as the Encore connects for Jover once again, and the AD carry's name is going to ring true here in game number 1 as PSE Dawn, 30 minutes on the game clock. They will take the first Nexus.
Gonna be able to clean up one final kill in addition. Gonna be able to take back that stack on the Dark Seal, and nicely done here by PSE Dawn. It was a pretty good job in the early game of keeping the losses to a very small minimum. And then they were even able to start winning back some of the plays before we expected them to be online, because Jover was able to get some kills in the bottom lane. We were able to see around the top side of the map that they were aggressive towards the Rift Heralds, and they were able to just find gold in different places on the map that was able to build up small advantages, and then they added to the small advantages by getting to their big power spikes and then using those power spikes to expand even further upon them. So it was just a snowball of happiness coming through for PSE Dawn, and they're able to take game one in a convincing fashion.
Absolutely. I mean, I will say it felt pretty contested through the early game there. HSG with some nice counterpunches, finding some picks of their own. You know, the Vex was really strong, was really far ahead to 6-1, I think, at one point in this game, or maybe 6-2 for the Vex. But down the stretch, it really did feel like Pride Stalker Esports, PSE Dawn here, had a little bit more coordination for their composition. They were just a little bit more on the same page, it felt like, and just able to make that happen with a little bit of additional scaling in their draft as well. They really did make good on that in a really striking way. Who's your MVP for game number one, Tiger? What do you think? So Jover on the Seraphine, 17-12. Diego, the Hef Colton, team captain. Hell of a performance there as well.
Yeah, it's tough to choose between those two. I guess that I'll give the slight advantage to Hef Colton because I thought that a lot of the plays were started out by good uses of the E to find those stuns, and then getting the single pick turned into the whole team fight going well. So credit there, but the whole team played well, and I think that the team synergy was more of the MVP than any single player.
Yeah, fair enough. I think I can agree with you there. But I do think the nod towards Hef Colton is a nice look. It can be really difficult to play Viego in drafts like this, where you don't really have primary engage. You know, you do have a Rakan, you have an Ari who can fish for charms, but the Viego doesn't usually want to be the one to go in first. Hef Colton kind of made it work this game. Like you said, finding some really creative angles and just looking, with the team at really opportune moments allowed them to, as you also mentioned a moment ago, get a pretty convincing win here in game number one. We will now go to a short break, guys, while we get loaded up into another lobby for our second game of the night. Time to see if HSG Pink can bounce back or if they are going to get knocked down into that lower bracket with the 2-0 from PSE Dawn. We'll be right back with more of the Style Esports Season 16 playoffs. All right, everybody, welcome back. Jumping now into our Game 2 draft between PSE Dawn and HSG Pink. Looks like HSG Pink electing to remain on the red side, Tiger. Your thoughts there?
Based red side enjoyers.
I see. Wow, big fan of that red side selection. Then, obviously, it didn't really work out for them in game number 1, Tiger. So if a side selection is not the answer, then what is the answer for HSG Pink in order to change the results from that previous game?
Give Toby Larone counter pick. That's what I think. And they're going to make an adjustment on the bans as well. Not going to allow that Diego through, but it opens up the Kaisa. So going to be it's Jover on the more hyper carry focused champion this game.
Immediately jumps on it as well. No hesitation there for PSE Dawn and their AD carry. Going to immediately elect to lock that one in. And now HSG Pink taking the full timer, thinking about their response. What do they want into the Kaisa after already banning away the Xayah themselves? Sivir will be the answer.
Yeah, Sivir pretty decent in lane. The thing that I look for into Kaisa is something that's extremely strong in lane and makes it difficult for Kaisa to get to that first item, because a lot of the times, even now, we're still seeing Kaisa going for that static Shiv first item. And once you get that, it's pretty easy to just not interact at all and just clear the waves. But if you can get onto the Kaisa before that happens, then you can take advantage of a vulnerable lane state. That said, when you pair the Sivir with the Yuumi, it's clear that's not what HSG Pink is going for. Instead, they're going to try to scale up alongside the Kaisa and have their own agency in team fights. Whenever I see the Sivir, I want to see Hecarim, so we'll see if Wolf Spike will go for the Hecarim for me.
Ooh, yeah, would pair nicely with the Yuumi as well. Maybe not as strong as it used to be, now that Yuumi kind of just has to stick on one person, in theory. But I do still think that the Hecarim could be really good here. But honestly, Tiger, I am very worried looking over at PSE Dawn, what they have put together. That is looking real scary. And the Pantheon now for HSG Pink, that is not something I was expected to see locked in.
Okay, I respect it. So what I'm thinking here, with the assumption that Pantheon is going into, well, it kind of is flex pick for all three, but we'll suppose that it's going into one of the solo lanes. Then that makes Pantheon a potential split pusher. And what PSE Dawn kind of have going on is a dive comp being set up here. They want to find picks as well as be able to go onto the enemy backline in general throughout a 5v5 team fight. So if HSG Pink can kind of set themselves up with a 4-man core that can protect against some of that dive, which they already have to some degree with Sivir and Yuumi, if they can add a strong front line to that can deflect some of the engage potential from PSE Dawn, then I think that they can put themselves in a good position where whoever pilots this Pantheon can go into that side lane and then look to pressure towards towers, and once a member of the enemy team is drawn towards him, he can go in with the ult towards the mid lane or wherever the team is grouped and look to make a 5v4 play off the flank.
Absolutely. I do think frontline is very much what HSG Pink needs to round out their composition. Not going to be the option here, though. It will be the Anivia for ZPM in the mid lane, as there is a little bit of a visual bug there with the draft will guys. It is Cassio and Vex are the two blue side bands in the second phase from PSE Dawn. Anivia the option for ZPM this game, and the Rock locked away for Aatrox in that top side. The Tristana as well going to be the option into the Anivia, try and match some of that wave clear. Double AD carry, frontline, engage. I'm liking PSE Dawn's draft a whole lot, Tiger.
Very synergistic. I mean, they're hard committing to this dive, but there's so much wave clear on HSG Pink's side that if they can play defensively, it's going to be hard to break it. I think that PSE Dawn gonna need to find some creative angles. The Master Yi lock-in gonna
just
be
locked Master Yi into Malphite Maokai Tristana.
That's wild. I can't wait to see what it is. Maybe it's going to be something like a hybrid AP build with Rageblade. Uh, we'll have to see what ends up coming through here, but a complete wild card. Maybe the idea is that you want to just blow up one of these carries. Not a lot of damage between Maokai, and Rakan. So if you're able to find a pick onto one of the enemy carries, then that can take the Fangs out of the enemy team fight really quickly. We'll have to see if that can actually happen here. And perhaps it's just kind of a lane matchup, quote unquote, in the jungle of being able to play Master Yi into the Maokai. I think that should theoretically work out pretty well as far as the early levels go, maybe looking to invade. Should have a lot of pressure in the lanes to be able to support that, even though Pantheon doesn't have necessarily kill pressure on the Malphite. Should still have push. Anivia and Tristana is probably going to be a wash. I'd imagine Tristana gets a little bit of push, but probably not enough to make a difference in stopping the Anivia from following to any sort of invade of the enemy jungle. And then Sivir Yumi should also have push, so I don't mind it, but that puts a lot of burden of execution back onto Wolf Spike and HSG Pink as a whole.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I honestly, Tiger, I mean, you're the color caster. You know better than me, I'm sure, but I'm not entirely convinced that these are going to be pushing lanes for HSG Pink. I mean, Tristana is less restricted by mana than the Anivia is, and has spikes earlier on as well than the Anivia does. And I expect the Tristana to consistently have... Oh, hang on a second, actually. It looks like the Kaisa is going to be the option for Shrouds in the mid lane. And we're actually putting Tristana into Jover's hands in that AD carry position.
That would make the bot lane a lot more volatile and would make me feel like there's a lot more of pressure coming out from PSE Dawn there. And that would kind of make the Master Yi only have 3 quadrants to work with instead of a potential 4 if we were to say that the Sivir could get pushed into a Kaisa, for example. So I think that that's a smart little adaptation coming through here. And for future matchups, and if this does go to the third game, having that flexibility of the Kaisa makes it even more high priority as a ban. So I think that it's smart both in a micro sense of it's going to be good this game, and also in a macro sense of it represents a threat that teams in the future have to respect.
They're swapping it around on us. They're swapping Tristana and Kaisa back and forth right now. So we're just going to have to wait and see until the swap out window has expired where these champions are going. Looking now like it is going to be the Tristana back into the mid lane as we were initially expecting. I do believe that is going to be the case, Tiger. So sorry to bait you there. I was the one who called it. That's my bad.
Oh, well, we might have another little bit of a swap to keep our eyes open for. Not going to happen, but flexing that potential of putting the Pantheon mid just for the humor of it potentially here. HSG Pink showing that they aren't afraid of a little bit of some mind games going on. But whatever the case, I think that this is going to be a pretty explosive game. Once again, we're looking at the level 6s as the time where that's most likely to start coming through. But I could imagine it happening even at level 1 with the champions that are in the game.
All right, then. That should be exciting to look forward to. See if we get any really early spice in this one. But I do feel, Tiger, like HSG kind of looked at what PSE had in game number 1 with a little bit of a scaling edge and said, that seems like a good strategy. Let's get some more scaling options for ourselves. And they drafted Master Yi and Anivia and Sivir, all champions that scale extraordinarily well. But this time around, our drafts are not mirrored in the same way that they were previously. This time around for PSE, they just have like the dive, like bulldozer composition, I want to say, where you have the nature's grasp and the unstoppable force just thrown straight in. Who doesn't have any front line. Once again, by the way, for HSG, they have a Pantheon and a Master Yi are their 2 melee characters. They're not going to be able to take very much. And then you have Rakan for the follow-up engage and the double marksman that can both join from very far away. It's looking scary to me, Tiger. But you seem to be a little bit more in favor of some of these HSG lanes and thinking that they maybe have some bigger windows here. But do you think it's going to be enough? I mean, PSE have momentum after game number 1 as well. Who's taking the second one?
Well, I think that it's going to be difficult for HSG Pink. I was representing the most optimistic points of being able to draft Master Yi here, and I believe in them. I wasn't telling you any lies, but I also think that the ability to invade doesn't necessarily translate into the ability to find winning team fights later on. So I think that it's looking pretty dangerous for HSG Pink, and just the snap engage potential for PSE Dawn is overwhelming. Even through a potential spell shield from Sivir being able to soak one of the roots from the Maokai ultimate, I don't think that that's going to be enough to prevent the all-in from coming through. And I think that at the end of the day, PSE Dawn's composition is going to prove a little bit too much here. I'd be willing to put this one on 80-20 in favor of PSE Dawn.
That's kind of what I'm thinking as well. Really, really strong draft here, I'm thinking, for PSE Dawn in this second game. But maybe HSG will be able to show us something special. Don't go anywhere, guys. We're going to have game 2 coming at you right after this. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Rift for Game 2 between PSE Dawn and HSG Pink. PSE Dawn taking the first game in a pretty convincing fashion in around 30 minutes. They've got Jover on the Kaisa, the B1 Kaisa this time around, and we've got Wolfspike on the R5 Master Yi. Any runes or summoner spells you would like to point out, Tiger?
Well, I think that it's expected to see the Exhaust Ignite on the Yuumi. I have a little bit of a question in the back of my head about the Yuumi, and we talked about the passive only applying to one person in the state of the game that we're at now. Mm-hmm. And I've heard some discourse when the original release of this rework was, well, ZPM could find himself in trouble here. Dr. Shroud's going to get a good trade-off.
We don't have any explosive charges for the Tristana just yet, only the rocket jump. But as you can see, the Tristana is still going to be winning out very nicely in this auto attack battle.
And going back to the thoughts about Yuumi is that maybe you want to pair the Yuumi with the Master Yi. That's what I was getting at. But it's difficult to make that happen while also trying to throw out any sort of spells in lane. If you were going to do that, you'd probably want to, instead of taking Spell Thieves, you'd want to get the Relic Shield and mostly stay off of the ally in lane. But that's just kind of difficult to do into anything that has any sort of kill pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, they sort of had an option here, I think, seeing the Kaisa so face up. HSG did have an option to try and draft something a little bit more aggressive for the lane, like you were kind of calling for, to try and punish that Kaisa, but clearly not the option that they did end up going with. So we'll have to see how the Yuumi does end up getting played out. We'd have both of our junglers starting on that bottom side of the map, and it's Hef Colton going for a very, very sneaky lane gank here. It seems that Jover and 12 are going to allow Mikey to push in this minion wave, and then the Sivir is going to get a little bit closer to where the tree is waiting. And the Brush is going to flash for it, looking for the play on a Mikey, and Sivir does have her own flash to try and get away from this one, but the grand entrance, the follow-up engage is too clean. And very early on here, the last auto attack, Jover is going to find it. Not quite an IQ. He'll take a couple of turret shots for his trouble, but they should be able to get this wave in very comfortably, and it's a very early first blood for Jover on the Kaisa.
Respect for Mikey flashing there, because even while it wasn't going to save himself, it does save Goon, so that's going to at least feel a little bit less bad than it might have. But still, it's Jover picking up the kill. That's what we saw early on in game number 1, and it became a huge problem there. We got a deep trade top.
In trouble, is ignited. One more spear will be enough. Toby finds the 1v1 kill. And Master Yi just there for moral support. So we're all tied up now. HSG finding one back in the top lane.
And while we don't see a more aggressive bot lane to try to counteract the Kaisa this time around, we do see in the top lane that Toby Larone on a more aggressive champion is able to represent a lot larger of a threat. Already picking up that solo kill, has the ignite there to be able to continue looking for that type of play. And I think that Aatrox's going to have to play extremely safe in the coming minutes. Try to get onto one item, try to get onto having that ultimate available, and then you can start being a part of, well, not the lane, but you at least be able to team fight. So I'm thinking that once we get later in the game, Dr. Shroud's probably going to try to answer the 1v1, but Toby Larone going to be hard to match for any single member of PSE Dawn.
That is definitely true, and we've got some cheers for Toby over there. I see in the Twitch chat as well, calling for the Toby carry. See if he's going to be able to make it happen this game. You know, Pantheon probably, honestly, a little bit better scaling than he used to have, but still not going to be great in that late game. So, seeing if Toby can find a way to increase the size of his snowball. And the Malphite, of course, going to be looking to play extremely defensively from this point, as you were just saying.
You can see some more trades going down in the mid lane. Already a pretty big CS advantage, about 15 for Dr. Shrouds. looking to continue that pressure there. We'll have to play safe against Wolfspike. Nice spell shield there from Mikey, getting a little cleaner with it and starting to win out on some of these trades.
Definitely. The Yuumi sustain is very real, although Goon taking a decent chunk on that last dismount. Toby going in for the shield vault here. He's going to get another nice trade-off onto the Malphite, but taking a decent amount in return as well. And then level 6 comes through for Aatrox. How did the Malphite get level 6 first after getting solo killed?
Was able to get the teleport off of the reset, I assume, and able to go without missing anything. Now we see the bot lane play it coming together here for
Mr. E on the dragon right now. Bot lane may be exposed, but Mikey with another spell shield to deny the grand entrance. The 12 IQ ignited burning down gives over some gold to the cat. And now have Colton actually in danger of getting run down as well, as a Bramble Smash is not going to create enough space, and Mikey picks up some gold as well on this Sivir. HSG fighting back nicely on this bottom side. Now Wolfspike going to be able to secure the neutral objective as well.
They're starting to find some gold in some different places. Going to be able to get a lead in the bot lane matchup, as we can see that the extra gold going on to Goon there is able to potentially get closer to that first item. That could be a difference maker. I do see that Goon's popping off every once in a while to put out the spells. We'll see. I'm trying to check the friendship passive. I don't know if there's a way to see how many stacks that it has, so I'm gonna just assume that it's gonna stay on Sivir throughout the majority of the game here, just because it's hard to switch it up later on. But gets the extra value that way, and using it well in lane at the very least.
Yeah, absolutely. See, the defensive power of the Yuumi is on full display. Zanivia is going to get chunked out by that explosive charge, but have Colton not going to be able to make it over in time for the lockdown. And yeah, I mean, there's the value that we, or at least you, were anticipating, from this lane. They didn't like to go for the aggressive matchup, but it doesn't matter if the side of PSE are just going to be the aggressive ones and over chase a little bit and give over some kills. Then the HSG bot lane is still going to be feeling great about that.
And at the very least, I'm expecting them to be able to push forward if they need to get prio at times. Like around that Drake, they were pushing forward initially when they ended up getting ganked, and they were able to back off at the time when they were able to draw the pressure. And that took the pressure away from the Drake and towards themselves. So that was able to help set up for that play. Now it's going to be the Rift Herald started up here, it appears, by PSE Dawn. They're going back to some similar strategies from last game, still holding down that small gold advantage for the time being as well. And going to look to extend it here by picking up that Rift Herald. Should be able to drop it towards mid, most likely. I think that's where they want to gain their biggest advantage. Right now, almost 1,000 gold lead for Dr. Shrouds. That pretty much makes up the entire differential between the two teams.
Yeah, absolutely. The Tristana has been very, very comfy in that mid lane. And there are quite a number of similarities, it seems, between our second game here and the game number one that we did have. Once again, the early neutral is going to be traded across these two teams. And also the picks kind of getting traded back and forth. Both teams finding some early punches that are landing through the early minutes of this one.
I think that what we saw in the bot lane is something that most likely we'll just not see replicate again, as Dr. Shroud's continuing to take aggressive trades. Still hasn't been able to pop the passive, the Agnivia not going down just yet, and that keeps ZPM at least a little bit safer. But I think that making some plays on other areas. Nope, it's going back to the bottom.
Looking down here, the Nature's Grasp will come out. Mikey going to flash away from that Maokai ultimate to try and get away, but the twisted advance to follow. F. Colton with the flash to guarantee that pick onto the Sivir. Once again, the money will go into Jover's pockets on this Kaisa. 3-3 now on the scoreboard. Wolfspike waiting in the bush, but I'm pretty sure PSE know that he's there. Master Yi will back away.
Going to be a few plates in addition to that kill. Once again, Goon able to get out alive, so avoids it being any worse than it has to be. And it's Jover a little bit low here. Has to be careful about Wolfspike going for the all-in.
Yeah, we're going to get the plate money from the Rift Herald. Kaisa does pick up her share of that, so that was clearly the objective in that instance. Now Jover can go for the reset and should have their first item in base. Likely going to be that static shiv that you were predicting earlier on.
Yeah, it seems like it's going to be double static shiv here. I don't mind it on the Kaisa, and it looks like it's going to be mainly an AP Kaisa build, so it seems like it's going to be fine that way. But I'm a little bit less of a fan of it on Tristana because I think that the main purpose of getting static shiv is that you just clear the wave right away. But Tristana already does that because of her E passive.
Very right there, Tiger. I am pretty much in agreement there. Maybe a little bit of a relic from when the item was extremely overpowered, as Shroud's just still wanting to build that, or maybe feeling like he needs the extra help with the wave clear, playing into something like the Anivia, as IQ and Jover looking for something down here in this bot lane, but the Yuumi shielding is keeping Mikey extremely healthy for now. The Grand Entrance will get the spell shield out, and the passive auto from Jover with the power of the static shiv gonna flash and miss the Void Seeker. Will it matter though is the question. The last auto attack will come out, and Jover picks up number 3. Did end up being pretty close though.
Has to stack up that passive. One less auto attack, and Mikey would have been able to find the kill. I think that the passive being on that last stack was what made the difference there. Toby getting aggressive.
That's another turret shot, and the Malphite is down. Toby picking up number 2.
We continue to see trades happening all across the map, and the thing is that Aatrox doesn't really need to go for any of this stuff. Right now, he's already in the position he needs to be. Just don't give any more resources back over to Toby Lerone on the Pantheon. I think that it's not going to be too influential in just losing that one death, but I think that any more of that, and then Toby Lerone could start to get out of hand, and that's the last thing that PSE Dawn need.
Okay, the Nature's Grasp down here in the bot side river to push Wolfspike off the objective. Mikey going to be able to move up to offer some support to his jungler, but the collapse from Jover on the flank here is going to force HSG out of the river. And the dragon will go over. So once again, Tiger, we are trading those early dragons 1-to-1 in that regard.
Maokai is the strongest control mage crewman. I think that we can clearly see that right here. Denies the most area from the other team, and control of areas is exactly the control that control mages are speaking of. Both junglers bot side now looking for a play.
Thinking about it, Tristana also with the move from mid lane could make it a 4v3. As the Grand Starfall, once again, to get Toby back to lane. Seen that a couple of times now from the Pantheon. Not necessarily using it to move around the map as much, but been able to keep on the pressure. Aatrox is really going for this 1v1 right now. Malphite, this is not your job. This is not what you need to do. It might be okay for now, but this is playing with fire for Aatrox. And he's dead. He is going to go down once again. The Malphite giving over more gold now to this Pantheon. 3-1 now for Toby.
And both times, Aatrox hasn't even been able to pop the ult before dying. I think that maybe the idea in that trade was get into lethal range for the ult and then ult on him, but not able to do so. Even with the Sheen procs, not able to get enough damage off. 12 IQ looked for a play.
Yeah, Wolfspike is down right now as there was that pick on the bottom side of the map, and Mikey and Goon are going to get taken down here. It's going to be Kaisa versus Pantheon, it seems, Tiger, and I think I know which side of that I would rather be on.
Well, if it's the 1v1, I'm taking the Pantheon, but okay, I think the team game is going to be a little bit overwhelming here. I think that this could be a good angle to see an early stopwatch into maybe even a Zonia's from Jover. When you're ahead, what you want to do is buy defensive items so that it's more difficult for the other team to come back from behind. And when you're behind, what you want to do is build offensive items so that you have enough damage to kill if you ever get the opportunity, and then start that comeback. We can see the trades that Aatrox is thinking is going to make the 1v1 winning, but Toby Lerone keeps on coming out on top.
Then for the Pantheon, going to go in with the shield vault once again, stacking up that passive, gets the empowered E for the additional damage reduction, but it will not save him from the unstoppable force. Wolfspike, though, should be able to trade this one back pretty comfortably onto the mountain. Not quite enough armor yet for Aatrox, and Wolfspike will make it the 1-for-1.
Both top laners falling there, but that means no Pantheon for any future fight, and Wolfspike no ultimate means that they are hardly going to be able to contest this Rift Herald, going to have to back it off and give it up. And once again, we see a good aggression coming out here from Dawn. They're going to be able to secure another Rift Herald, be able to set up for the next Drake in 2 minutes with it. They ended up giving up the third Drake of the game last time and falling down 2-1 on the count. But I don't think that's going to happen again here right now. They're just a little too strong. Even their 0-0-0 mid laner is up by the likes of just about 2,000 gold. So going to be difficult to respond to that at any stage of the game, but especially right now for the side of HSG Pink. They're going to have to tunnel until they can hit some really major power spikes. I think that what they're looking at is getting ZPM on the 2 items both upgraded. Once you can get that 10-stack Roa plus the Seraph's Embrace, that's a pretty big power spike to look towards, and maybe that's when they want to start making plays again.
Yeah, definitely could see that. Frosty Bird needs some more time here. ZPM still in the nest for right now. Hasn't learned to fly just yet. So that is what we are going to be needing for the side of HSG. Very sneaky from Wolfspike here. Going to be wrapping around on Dr. Shrouds. The Buster Shot to create some space, but this Tristana is running towards the wrong Nexus. And Shrouds has already used all of his spells. This is going to be a kill for Wolfspike. Oh, gets the reset actually on the rocket jump. Oh, and the flash to get on the other side of the wall. Wolfspike cannot quite close the distance as the Tristana, I thought she was all out of mobility, but gets the reset with the explosive charge, manages to weasel her way out of that tricky situation, and now will be able to join up with the rest of the team for this dragon that's coming up in 25 seconds. As Malphite has some more armor now. This is starting to go a little bit more in Aatrox's favor.
Yeah, Master Yi only needs a few auto attacks to land a kill, but I think that all that went down in that trade was a Q and a one-shot.
Still shield that. That's going to be the Herald. Shirley dropped now, making an appearance into the mid lane as well. Some additional priority as a 5v4 already on the map for PSE. Going to get that charge into the tier 2 and then reset back towards the dragon.
Even posturing aggressively in the bot lane.
Oh, yeah, Shroudy looking for it here. ZPM going to get jumped on. Has the Frostbite to try and do a little bit of self-peel. Aatrox in trouble in this top lane. We'll go for the Unstoppable Force, but there's Wolfspike also here for the cross map. Knows that he cannot contest the objective, and Aatrox giving over some more gold. This Malphite has just been needlessly aggressive on a number of occasions now.
A little bit of a loot pinata, but at the same time, I think that play theoretically could have worked if not for the assistance coming through from Wolfspike. And I think that if you're PSG or PSE, Dawn, you're probably happy knowing that that means the objective is secure. So while you don't really want to give over any of the kills if you don't have to, I don't think that they particularly mind as much as if it had been with no play on the opposite side of the map.
I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right, Tiger. But the point is they could have gotten the dragon and also not had their top laner die. Giving Master Yi more gold is always going to be very, very dangerous.
That is true. I think that not dying is usually the best option. So we'll see if they can figure that out. If Aatrox can start becoming a little bit more difficult to kill. As the items come in, that's going to be a little bit more the case. I think that on 2 or 3 items, that's where tanks are tankiest of the game, because once you get to the late items, then the damage kind of outpaces them. But I think that Aatrox starting to get pretty close to that with the Bomby Cinder now going towards what I assume is going to be the Sunfire Aegis. Going to be able to take out this tower, and Toby Larone might be in trouble unless he can find some help.
Yeah, the Malphite is pretty strong at this point. He is getting pretty beefy, as you were just saying. We'll go in with the Unstoppable Force. Going to get Toby chunked down pretty low here. Mikey in position now with the Fleet of Foot to try to create some additional movement speed to get the top laner out towards safety, but the Ignite will come down. Aatrox will find the kill, and in comes Jover from out of nowhere. Kaisa flies in there with the Killer Instinct, picks up that kill onto the Sivir as well, but on the other side of the map, it will be a kill back over to HSG. So they managed to pick off Shrouds. And we did lose Aatrox for PSE on the back end of that play in the top side as well. Didn't quite see how the
Ended
Malphite
up dying to the tower, I believe. But with the play being made on the opposite side of the map, that's enough to call for the start of the Baron. Nice opportunity to go for it here, but we'll see if Wolfspike can get here in time and maybe create some chaos.
Master Yi going to... Oh, doesn't have the ultimate, doesn't have the Highlander, actually, and there's too much CC here. They're just going to burst him down. So Master Yi actually didn't have the necessary firepower to go in for that one. We are going to find the knockup over the wall, and PSE are looking to clean up all of these remaining members. ZPM is going to flash into the Baron pit to try and get away from this one, but Jover flashing over the Q, has the exhaust even for good measure, and that is going to be Egnivia popped, and the kill given over to the Kai'Sa in one fell swoop. And right back onto the Baron, they can go. This is going to be on vision. There's that cheeky ward just outside of the pit that's going to watch him do it, but Master Yi not even alive for 5 more seconds. This should assuredly be PSE's Baron to lose. Mikey
Pantholt's about to come back up. They could look for kills on the back end.
Okay, Baron down to 2K. Smite is good from Hef Colton. Mikey in trouble, getting jumped on by Shrouds, and is just going to blow up that Sivir. We saw that in game 1 as well. Mikey just hanging around the back of the Baron pit without his jungler. And it was the same result, getting picked off once again here by Shrouds. 15-9 now on the scoreboard. The gold lead has exploded up to 8K in their favor. And with the draft diff as well, I mean, HSG kind of need a miracle from this position, or they need Toby to continue finding these kills in the side lane. Aatrox does have the Malphite ultimate, will be able to use that defensively this time around. Gets over the wall. Wolfspike with the Highlander flank. Blast Cone gets him away. That will be the disengage for PSE.
Ooh, I like this. It's the Leandries build for its Jover, being able to threaten so aggressively from long range because the poke just continues burning over time. And as long as you can land a couple of them and keep that burn going, some of these members are just going to fall of HSG if they end up taking more than one of those Void Seekers. And obviously it sets up for the ulti as well. Aatrox could be in trouble here, taking the turret aggro.
The Malphite is going to die again, it seems. Will he be able to get the turret? He will get the turret down. I'm not quite sure if he got the gold for it or not. It looks like maybe he did. But the Malphite will die again. Remains to be seen how impactful that is actually going to be. They have consistently been able to find kills onto this Malphite, but it just hasn't really translated for HSG into anything else.
And it does take a Baron buff away, so that's nice, but they will lose the Drake on the other side of the map, so it's going to be Soul Point now. Chemtech Soul obviously going to feel pretty nice for a team that has a little bit of sustain, but are relatively squishy, so I think that particularly for the bottom half of the map, that's going to be impactful if they can pick it up. And, well, I mean, maybe for Aatrox as well, given how often we see him under 50% HP.
Yeah, certainly. Could get some value there. You know, Malphite taking just a little bit longer to be taken down could certainly provide some value for PSE on these cross maps, as Toby taking so much damage there will have the E to prevent himself from going down, but this Kai'Sa is so threatening at this point. Maokai, Hef Colton is going to have to flash away from that turret, but in goes Rakan 12 IQ, going to find the quickness, going to find the lockdown onto the enemy marksman. Mikey going to get taken down there. Colton potentially in danger. Here comes Wolfspike with the Highlander. The Bramble Smash for the attempted disengage, and the Master Yi is going to be successful in taking down the Maokai, but will not survive to tell the tale. And now Pantheon there to pick up his cat, and just as I say it, another Void Seeker connects from Jover, and once again, it's Jover is going to be able to recite that summoner name in confidence, as he and the rest of the squad do look towards the enemy nexus for the second time tonight. PSE Dawn looking to bring an early sunset for HSG in these playoffs. Double inhibitor will fall.
Nice snipe coming through from Isjover. Snipes left and right, I should say. The sniper really coming through in this game out of the void, able to use that to most effect. Aatrox is taking the boss strat here. Doesn't care about how many deaths appear, but the most damage on the
This
towers.
time he's got his support there. IQ able to fly in, keep that top laner alive. Wolfspike desperately trying to cut through this mountain. Will eventually be able to get the kill on 12 IQ. Now will not survive either. Master Yi starting to pick up some kills here. Jover gonna get shut down as Wolfspike picks up the triple kill. And this is why you don't give Master Yi free gold, guys. In case anybody didn't know.
Now that could be a problem. I think that it's not going to be Dr. Shroud's falling here, but that's pretty much half of an item given over to Wolfspike right there. And getting near 3 item completions. Ginsu's there is going to really help take out some of these tanks. I think that it's going to be... I believe that's Wit's End that's coming through next. But whatever the case, I think it's going to be the 3rd item here for Wolfspike as potentially a turning point in this game. I mean, still a long ways to climb back down almost 10,000 gold, but getting just the possibility of winning fights in your head sometimes can swing morale and get you to start looking more creatively towards, whatever possibilities that the opposing team is going to leave open for you. Wolfspike, I think that Wolfspike's getting close to having the pairing with Yuumi, the best friends. So if that ends up coming through, that could be big.
Okay, here comes Aatrox looking for a play onto this back line. ZPM just kind of caught out in no man's land, gets locked up by the Nature's Grasp, and Jover easily takes him down. Wolfspike now and Mikey on the retreat with their trusty pet cat, looking to get back towards these Nexus turrets and put on a defense, but without their Anivia, they are much more lacking in wave clear than they otherwise would be. Wolfspike is going to try and go in now with the Highlander. Toby going to be able to jump in as well with the shield vault. They are going to be able to take down the Malphite, but ultimately, in the end, there was just too much CC. Wolfspike's not able to get it done. We have run out of minions. That's the shield vault of the Rakan underneath the turret, but Pantheon's going to sacrifice his life for that attempted play onto the support, and now it's just Mikey. It's just Sivir and Yuumi left to try and defend last Nexus turret under fire for PSE Midnight as they look to close this one out a little bit faster even than they did in game number 1. The Nexus will fall despite Wolfspike making things a little bit exciting towards the end there. 28 minutes on the clock this time around, and PSE Dawn find the 2-0 and advance to the next round in the Season 16 playoffs.
Pretty impressive day from PSE Dawn. I think that they didn't show much weakness other than giving up a lot of kills in the top lane, which didn't seem to hamper their plans at all. I didn't see any area on the map today that could be easily taken advantage of. I think that they worked together really well, which was huge for them. I think looking out for more of 12 IQ's Rakan going into the future is something that some of the teams should be keeping an eye on. And obviously for HSG Pink, they're going into the lower part of the bracket. They're not out just yet, so we'll be looking to hear more from them. I think that they have some potential there. They had some decent early games coming through, especially seeing what the solo laners could do in the 1v1 matchups. I think that they want to get more out of those whenever they can get the opportunity, get more kills, get more advantages coming through in those solo lanes. So if they could play towards that, maybe that's an adjustment that could help them out. But obviously it's going to be a long road to come back through that complete knockout stage bracket. So we'll see if they can make it happen, and hopefully they're going to at least keep their hopes and dreams alive of going to the finals.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is good that you mentioned that, the fact that HSG Pink do have that second life still. They will be going up next against the loser of Divine Temple versus Stunned Gaming Invictus. So expected to be Stunned Gaming Invictus there, the 6th seed that does lose out to the 3rd seed Divine Temple, but we'll have to see as those results do come in. And HSG Pink, I do think that particularly in that second game, They were draft gapped pretty severely. And I do think that their solo laners, particularly Toby in that top side, did have some really nice moments in both games, honestly, to try and find some angles for the squad. But it was clearly PSE Dawn who were the better team tonight. And I like that you shout out 12 IQ's Rakan as well, 2 games in a row for the PSE Dawn support on the Rakan. Looked fantastic on it both times. Is that going to be your game 2 POG this time around, or are you looking back towards the jungler ADC positions once again? I mean, it was Kaisa who found that huge early lead and kind of snowballed the team to victory, but she was set up quite nicely.
Yeah, I think that it probably does have to go to 12 IQ in this game. I think that it's kind of funny because I didn't put It's Jover as the MVP of either game, but I'd say It's Jover probably MVP of the series in general. Just there was some moments in each of the individual games where we saw even bigger highlights from different players on the team. But that just goes to show how strong of a 5-man squad that PSE Dawn is. There's no one member that you can solo out and say it's the team getting carried by this person. It's the whole team working together that really makes the engine run. So I think that that's really promising for them going forward and potentially being into a position against a 1 seed if Onbu does knock off Catalyst Eclipse. So we'll see if they're able to keep their win streak going here or if it's going to get a lot more tumultuous as the bracket continues, but should be exciting either way.
Definitely the case, Tiger. You know, with their previous win a couple of weeks ago, PSE Dawn have managed to string together a couple in a row now for themselves, looking to be firing on all cylinders heading into this postseason. And congratulations to them on a well-deserved 2-0 tonight. Do you have any final thoughts on this match, Tiger? I think we're about ready to close things out for our stream this evening, but is there anything else that you wanted to mention?
Very clean play. I think that one thing that we don't often get to see in some of the lower tiers of competitive play is teams just knowing how to close out when they're ahead. So that's what impressed me most out of today, and PSE Dawn looking like a very complete team.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And they had their 80 carry in that bot lane as Jover helping to lead the charge. Have Colton having a phenomenal match from the jungle as well. But that's going to do it for us tonight. So Pride Stalker Esports, Dawn advancing to the next round in the upper bracket. HSG going to be in the lower bracket to continue their playoff run to try and bounce back. I'm not sure if we have our next scheduled match in the schedule yet. I'm not sure if we actually know when that is going to be. My Discord is frozen right now, Tiger. Are you able to go ahead and check in the Shoutcaster schedule channel? See if there's
let me see if we've got anything else scheduled. I don't remember seeing anything on the docket.
There is at the moment.
But we'll definitely have some more matches getting streamed soon, so keep an eye out for that in the Discord channel. They'll definitely be posted when they're getting streamed, and there's a lot more playoff action coming your way.
Certainly. That is going to do it from us tonight. So from myself, from Tiger here, from the entire team over at Style Esports, thank you everybody very much for watching. We appreciate all of you, and we'll see you next time as the Style Esports Season 16 playoffs do continue. Thank you again, and good night.